Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 4091. Today's date is 8th of June 2026. It's been almost like night at 10:35 p.m. Alright, let's just jump into the question. Alright, let's go. The question is, think of frustrating situation you've been attributing to someone else or circumstances. What is the one concrete action within your control that you haven't yet taken? Okay, it's a very long question. All right, yeah, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? Okay. Basically, I read book. Okay, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is the book that I was reading. Okay, this book is like I was kind of like a reading for almost like a 2 month. Yeah, at least more than 2 months. And I was kind of like a waiting for that when this book will gonna end. By the way, still almost like a 50 pages still remaining. Okay, 40 pages still remaining. Okay? But still I kind of like decided that no, let's ask question. Okay, first of all, why this book is kind of like so much difficult for me, this is the I never really read that many books, by the way. I started reading books since beginning of this year. I read kind of like Atomic Habit, Psychology of Money, How to Win and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. These are 3 books that I read, and this is my 4th book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, self-help book. And this is the book is one of the biggest book. Okay, previously those are books are kind of like just small books, 200 pages, 300 pages, but this book is almost like a 489, 90, almost like a 500 pages with very tight. There is no graph, there is nothing really at all, just kind of like a long paragraph with nothing really, kind of like some break in the sentence, nothing really at all. And it's a very difficult for me to grasp the information from this book because like a very heavy book. Okay, so digesting the information from this book is kind of like a bit more heavy, but still I managed. It took me almost like a 2 months to read this book. I am kind of like a complimenting myself that I read this book. Like this is one of the kind of like a biggest kind of like some book, okay, that I read, and I'm proud of that. I read this book because I was never really a reader. Okay, I was never really read a book. Like basically beginning of this year I started reading kind of like a book. Before that I never even kind of like consider as a book should supposed to be read. But still is this thing that I started reading this book, and I'm proud of myself that I read almost like a 500 page of book and kind of like a grasp little bit of information, but it felt really good. Okay, yeah. Another thing is that it's just like I decided that reading a book doesn't really make sense at all. Like basically you read you read this book, you read that book, you read that book, like you read hundreds of books. What does it make sense? Nothing really at all, na. Like basically what I'm saying is that unless you are not implementing the book, then it doesn't really make sense that how many read your book doesn't really make sense at all. You have to implement that book. You have to implement the value that book taught. So that's why I kind of like decided that whatever the book that I will gonna read, I wanted to implement the value that book taught me. I wanted to implement that value in my real life. So yeah, so same, like basically I read this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I went to ChatGPT, said that I read this book, I wanted to implement the value, suggest me 20 question. ChatGPT kind of like suggest me 20 question, and this is one of those question. Okay, yeah. Now regarding about the question is a kind of like a very heavy. Okay, yeah, it's a very long question. Let me kind of like read the question again. Think of frustrating situation you've been attributing to someone else or to the circumstances, what is the one concrete action within your control that you haven't yet taken? Okay, still not really understand, na? I know it's a very kind of like a difficult to understand. I'm kind of like a simplified this kind of like a question in even more simple language. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's just say you are living with your roommate. Okay, and your roommate is kind of like a simply leaving dirty dishes. He's not washing his dishes, nothing really at all. Now you have to cook the food. So what do you supposed to be do? Because entire kitchen is just mess. So you have a two action. Okay, yeah. Do you blame your roommate that you still leave the dirty dishes, or just what do you do? Yeah, in that situation, do you blame that particular person or you take the action? What exactly is this thing? Well, it's a kind of like a thing that if you think that I should supposed to blame that particular person, which is really good. Like basically is this thing that I make sure that whatever the kind of like a dishes that I like use, I wash them and properly kind of like put them into the rack, right? Like I was kind of like expecting that my roommate do the same thing. Why do I supposed to be kind of like a wash his dirty dishes? I am not his maid, I am not his wife, I'm not his kind of like a things. Okay, why do I kind of like a things? Obviously I am kind of like a very much frustrated. Okay, so basically blaming would be kind of like a very first thing, because let me tell you one thing, you are kind of like a went from office, you are came from the office, you are kind of like really tired, you are really hungry, you wanted to make the khichdi, and you are kind of like a went to the kitchen and see the entire kind of like a kitchen is mess because your roommate is a kind of like a somebody just put all those dirty dishes in front of the kitchen. No, it's a very fucked up situation. Okay, so in that situation, what would you do? What exactly is this thing? Do you blame that particular guy or that and that and that? Okay. Now, basically, this question asked to me. So, what do I supposed to be do? Do I blame that particular person or what? Well, usually is this thing that in some certain situation, I usually okay. Let me tell you one thing. There is a kind of like a different scenario regarding about the perspective of thing. I kind of like give the example of the roommate point of perspective. Okay, yeah. But what if there is a kind of like a husband or wife or maybe someone else, or like there is a lot of thing. Okay, yeah. Or like there is a lot of kind of like a situation and things and that. Like okay, let me kind of like tell you, when you blame somebody, okay, it's a kind of like a thing that you are associate emotion with that particular person. What is the emotion? Hate. Okay, because blame is kind of like a somewhat something kind of like a hate. Okay, and when you associate the emotion, that means you are kind of like a somewhat something associate with that person, or I don't know. Okay, what do I supposed to do? Like what is actually in that situation? Like if my roommate is kind of like a leave the dirty dishes, what do I supposed to be do? Okay, don't put this kind of like a example as it is. There are multiple kind of like examples, scenarios, situation and things and that. Like lot of stuff. Example is this thing, you wanted to go to the home, there is a kind of like a last local train, but because of it's a kind of like a somebody that someone kind of like a somebody that like a someone kind of like a somebody because of kind of like a lot of kind of like a somebody crowded and things and that, you cannot able to be catch your train. So who do you blame? Do you blame other people or things or that and that and that? There's a lot of situation. Okay, yeah. So basically, who do you blame, or do you want to blame or not, or things and that? Well, I believe that I will not gonna blame anybody at all. Something worse happened, it happened. You try to make sure that this will not gonna happen, but if such thing happened, it happened. You can't control, you can't change the position, you can't change the time. It happened. Okay, sometimes you can't control other people. Sometimes, most of the time, you can't control other people. Like some people are lazy, some people are kind of like a thing, some people are whatever it is. you are kind of like expecting to be a job should supposed to be done at significant amount of time. That particular person did not this is job. So should you blame that particular person or not? I don't know. What do I supposed to do in that situation? Obviously I will gonna get angry. Okay. So I have to be asked this question to myself, that should I supposed to be get angry or should I supposed to be not? Well, basically this thing na ki I would not gonna take angry. I would kind of like simply just move out the dishes and kind of like make my khichdi, or just kind of like simply I figured out something else. Because why would I supposed to be waste my energy or invest my energy on blaming? Nothing really at all, na? Because it gives me stress and things and that. Fuck off. Like, I believe that ki problem happened, fix it. Not if you can't fix it, the train is actually leave, then figure it out another way to kind of like arrive at home, or maybe something else. I don't know. Okay, but I am not kind of like a blaming on situation. Okay, now basically this thing na ki for me it is kind of like a very easy to say. Okay, why? Because of that ki I am doing this artifact for past 11 year. I understand myself, I connect myself, I understand where should I supposed to be blame and where should I supposed to be not. Okay, let me tell you one thing. You have to be blamed at some certain situation. You have to take action at some certain situation. There is no right, there is no wrong. Okay, let me kind of like tell you the scenario. Example. Let's just say you are the boss of the company, and basically is this thing that your employee did not did the work. Okay, yeah, and because of this thing you might gonna lose so much amount of money. So basically you have to blame that particular person, right? Like, what the fuck that you did? Okay, like because of this thing I might gonna lose and things and that. Okay, so basically sometime you have to kind of like show the authority that ki because of this thing something happened. Because when you apply the blame, then probably this situation might not gonna happen again. Like if you are kind of like a boss, then you are kind of like I said, you have to fix this thing till the end of the night or till whatever it is. Okay, because it's really essential so that this mistake will not gonna happen again. So sometime blaming might gonna work. Okay, but not most of the time. Okay, usually blame is actually work when the person that you already knew it, like a person in your office, or maybe you are kind of like a roommate, or maybe you are kind of like a significant other, things and that. Same example, take a roommate. Okay, you kind of like went to his room and say, dude, wash your dishes first. Okay, this is kind of like a very essential, because instead of kind of like a blaming, you just kind of like basically this thing, you just take action and you just kind of like said, you just confront that particular person that, dude, wash your dishes first. It's very essential. Now this person might have kind of like some sort of reason. Obviously he will not purposefully does not wash the dishes. He might have a reason. Okay, or maybe he forgot, then he will try to fix this thing. Because let me tell you one thing now, sometime blame work, because not every time you will gonna wash his dishes, or not every time you will kind of like somebody end up seeing the kind of like a kitchen is worse every single day. No, blaming is kind of like a somewhat something matter essential, because some mistake happened repeatedly will kind of like create a things like basically if you not say anything at all, other people take granted for you, and this is kind of like a very worse example. Is this thing that you are kind of like somebody recently joined a company, you are a kind of like somebody work as a CAD modeler. Okay, your senior kind of like tell you that go bring the coffee to us. Now basically is this thing, you are not a peon, you are not a kind of like a things. So basically at the beginning you are kind of like a junior, so probably at the beginning, okay, I will bring the coffee for you, but not every day na. So you will directly confront that particular person, whoever the person you are, senior. Just say, sir, like, listen, I came here for do my job, let me do my job. Ask someone to kind of like bring the coffee for you. Okay, let's be kind of like a simply tell that key, this is a not right. Okay, sometimes self respect is also matter. Okay, okay, but sometimes blaming does not work. Example is this thing that some worse situation happened, and that blame is kind of like a somebody depend on such a person that you haven't know that particular person, like a random stranger. Because of the random stranger I might not get my train. Because of the random stranger I did not get my deliver kind of like a my package or things and that and that. So in that situation, blaming that random stranger doesn't really make sense at all. Okay, because he doesn't know you, you doesn't know him, nothing really at all. So in that situation, just kind of like somebody just try to figure it out some sort of way, and I do that thing. I try to figure it out some sort of other way. Okay, now basically is this thing right now, I will not gonna blame to the people if worst thing actually happened. Even if the people that I know, I will kind of like somebody not gonna blame that particular person. Now why is that? Because right now I am not in that particular situation that I would gonna blame. Let me tell you something, okay, yeah, regarding about blame and how is kind of like a blame actually happening. Sorry. Okay, you blame a particular person when you have authority. Okay, when you don't have authority, blame doesn't really happen at all. Okay, authority means what? Like what exactly is this thing? Is it kind of like something, I don't know, yeah, it's a kind of like a thing that like right now I shouldn't supposed to be kind of like explain this stuff, because it's a kind of like a thing that ki when you live the life you realize that thing. Okay, I shouldn't supposed to tell you that. Okay, so basically is this thing, what do I supposed to be doing in that situation? Do I blame another person or just take the action? Okay, you at the beginning just kind of like somebody just do not like a blame, nothing like at all, just do the action. Okay, if it actually happened, basically your roommate is not washing your dishes, you are kind of like a first time experiencing this thing. First time okay, second time okay, third time no, it's not okay. Confront that particular person, say just do not kind of like put the dirty dishes on the sink, make sure it wash. Okay, in the in the office, your senior kind of like somebody asking you to bring the coffee. Day 1 okay, day 2 okay, day 3 don't. Said confront particular person, sir, I am sorry regarding about everything, I don't feel like that ki I would kind of like bring the coffee to you every single day, because it doesn't really make sense for me. Okay, so sometimes okay, yeah, there is also consequences will gonna happen too. Your roommate is kind of like a shout at you, or maybe senior will kind of like a say this thing that ki, oh, you are kind of like a showing me a gratitude or showing me a kind of like a attitude and things and that and that. So consequences will gonna happen, but it's a basically I don't know, it's a kind of like a thing that it's up to you, dude, who you are, what exactly your self-respect and things and that. If you do not have any self-respect, then yeah, do whatever you want. Let your senior asking you to bring the coffee every single day, then just do it. Okay, people will take the advantage of you and you are kind of like okay with that, then just do it. Okay, who do I supposed to blame? Yes, you are okay with that things, and that's okay. Yeah, I am not okay with that thing. Self-respect is also kind of like a somewhat something matter to me. Okay, and as well as matter to so many peoples too. Okay, obviously if I am allowed to kind of like bring you coffee every single day because I am the peon and things and that, so in that situation obviously I will, it's my job to kind of like bring you coffee every single day, so I will kind of like give you coffee every single day. But it's not my job, na. You are the senior, but it's not my job to kind of like bring you coffee every single day, so it's not. Okay, so basically it's this thing now, they understand the situation, scenario, consequences, and yeah, obviously consequences will gonna happen. The senior might gonna say you, oh, you have attitude and things and that and that. So instead of kind of like a saying kind of like a very roughly, kind of like a said very calmly or things and that. Sir, like I respect your work, things and that, but still I will not gonna bring the coffee, or maybe something, add another kind of like a reason that key stuff and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. Whatever the kind of like assembly reason suits you with the situation surrounding things and that. Okay, same thing with the roommate, dude. We are living together. Okay, yeah. And this kind of like a dirty dishes, I do not want to see. Like make sure it should supposed to be washed. Yeah. So we are living in society. Blame is a kind of like a somewhat something that key matter, because mistakes shouldn't supposed to be happen again and again. If the mistake happen again and again, then it just doesn't make sense at all. Right? Yeah. And regarding about the action, okay, if you like around the stranger, you can't blame the stranger is just stranger, nothing really at all. So in that situation, just take the action. What do you supposed to be do? Blaming that random stranger doesn't really make sense at all. Just leaving the kind of like assembly energy and things and that. What do I supposed to do in that situation? Well, I will kind of like blame when the person is kind of like I know things and that, or with the random stranger I just kind of like figure it out a way. Okay, I don't know. Okay, like this is like a basically just saying right now. What I'm saying is that na ki it depends on situation, time, lot of stuff. Like a lot of kind of like a things are kind of like a something associate with that thing. It's just not just kind of like a thing. So yeah. So in that situation, I might like usually I kind of like a take a action instead of kind of like a blaming and things and that probably, but still blaming is also really essential. Okay, yeah. Let them like a let kind of like a people should supposed to be, I don't know, whatever. It's just my opinion. Whatever, this is it. This is that. By the way, I have to be kind of like continue almost like a 20 question. Okay. Uh okay, because I wanted to implement the value that book taught me. So yeah. All right. So this is it. This is the end. And thank you.